Hey, it's Tom Laird, host of Advice from a Call Center Geek and CEO of Expivia and AutoQA. Before we dive into the episode, a quick note. Expivia is your CX tech partner, 100% USA-based, AI-powered, and the only contact center outsourcing partner on the NICE CX1 Customer Executive Council. If you're looking for more than just agents, you're in the right place. Love to talk to you if anyone's interested in outsourcing their CX. Now let's get to the episode. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Advice from a Call Center Geek, the call center contact center podcast. We try to give you some actionable items to take back in your contact center, improve the overall quality, improve the agent experience, hopefully improve your customer experience as well. Man, I got that thing down. After, I guess, 200 and almost 50 episodes, it kind of flows now. My name is Tom Laird. I am the CEO of Expivia Interaction Marketing, which is a contact center outsourcer here in the good old US of A, and also AutoQA, right? Which you guys, if you follow me at all, know is our AI-powered quality assurance tool that has been just, I don't want to say blowing up, but steadily growing and taking on new customers. So that's been a really exciting journey. And I'll have more on that kind of next week on some of the really cool things that I think you're about to see in QA in general. But I want to talk about outsourcing today. And we have been getting in a lot of different RFPs that we've seen from other potential customers, thoughts on some of the things that I think are important and what I think that customers should have that I don't see in RFPs. And I kind of put together a template here, and I posted this on LinkedIn, and I will post it again for everyone who kind of wants to see this. Now, if you're just listening to the podcast, I'm going to talk about it. But if you're on YouTube or if you're here live on LinkedIn, you can kind of check it out and see as I have it kind of up on the screen of what I think you need to start to think about beyond if you've been in the kind of the vendor relationship kind of outsourcing world for the last 20 years. I would say in the last 18 months, this whole RFP process, what you should be expecting from a BPO partner has totally changed, right? So these are some of the things that I think, even us at Expivia, that we're making sure that we are offering all customers, making sure that we are, again, you've heard me say this, but trying to flip the whole outsourcing thing on its head, right? To be a technology partner first to help organizations with AI, with a roadmap, getting all their infrastructure in order, but also still servicing and having amazing agents when that need is there. So there's been a huge dynamic shift from, again, just the normal, hours and butts in a seat kind of model to it's not really being a technology partner first. You're really trying to help organizations with that piece of the pie while still, offering the amazing customer support from a human aspect as well. So let's kind of talk about this. And again, we don't need to spend a lot of time on the kind of the company overview stuff, right? That stuff has never changed. That's kind of your old school RFP stuff. Even looking at certifications, looking at compliance standards. Do you need a SOC 2 compliance? Do you need HIPAA? Do you need PCI? Right? Looking at all of those type of different kind of metrics. And again, I'm going to go off on a tangent here on SOC 2 compliance. I think while it's important, it seems like just this crazy money grab. I've gone through so many of those things now that, again, I'm just gonna swallow that and keep it inside for another day. All right, when we start, I like to get, and I think that the AI piece, especially if your organization is thinking about it, if you put it at the end, it almost seems like you're not really thinking about it. It's kind of like a secondary thing, or at least I think that's what the BPOs kind of, or how I kind of take it as, that maybe you're not really as serious about it, and you might not get maybe the best answers, or you might not, I don't want to say not truthful answers, but it just doesn't seem like it's a priority for you. So it's not going to be a priority on the RFP for the organization. I think that's probably the best way to put it, right? So again, I like in the second section, right, to talk about the overview of, what are you doing? What is your approach to AI-driven tools such as Agent Assist, Auto QA, real-time analytics, AI routing, right? Looking at sentiment analysis, right? What are you doing with that? How is that part of not just a tool that you have, but the strategy that you have? And I think that's what you need to get at in these RFPs, right? Not just looking at what tools, but what is the overall strategy, and does that align with what you're looking for from a BPO partner, right? how do you do integrations, right? High level, right? How does the BPO, how do they do integrations? Do they have the team? Are they onshore? Do they have third parties do them, right? How does that look, right? Do they have things like voice recognition, biometric, security aspects of what they do if that's something that you need, right? Kind of dig deep into kind of the high level, advanced AI, advanced technology stuff, for that. Right. And then again, I put even on here traditional RFP questions, right? So again, what's the mission? What is the core values? And while that's hokey, I think things just do need to align. And again, that goes back to the old school BPO, making sure that we're finding a partner, making sure that you're finding somebody that does have your core values, right? Are you looking for more of a sales and kind of just get the job done type organization? Are you looking for a social services with a really empathetic voice? Like what are you looking for? Right. And again, how do you use your tools? And again, a lot of this is very tool driven because again, we're moving into an age of technology and we're going to talk about agents and we're going to talk about training, right? But again, how do you handle scalability, right? How do you handle those spikes? What are your WFM strategies? How do you recruit, right? All of that stuff is kind of the normal RFP. That was kind of the old school technology, old school meaning like 18 months ago. So you'd have like all these agent questions and then you'd start to ask things like, hey, what's your WFM? How do you route and take into account if we're in queue? Do you have, virtual callbacks, like all the basic stuff, right? That you would kind of ask. And again, even I have on here because every RFP I see, it still asks for kind of disaster recovery and business continuity planning. And I almost always say we're kind of in that, like COVID never stopped, right? I guess, right? So if COVID never stops, we're still work from home. We're still kind of in that everything is cloud-based. So, but again, I think that there needs to at least be some thought with that, especially when you're going to do hundreds and hundreds of agents. What happens if the CCaaS goes down? What do you do? What is the plan, right? I'd like to break into kind of some outside of AI, but brother, sister to AI, right? A next section of having advanced analytics. I think advanced analytics is the most underrated, awesome tool still in the contact center world. And it is not as prevalent as it should be in these RFPs. The reason I say it's the only tool that you can get that can really affect multiple aspects from a data standpoint of your business. It can affect, again, obviously service. It can affect your sales. It can affect your marketing, right? Your actual core mission, right? It's going to tell you things about customers. It's going to tell you things about your agents. So to really dig deep, and you want an organization that has real time, post-call analytics, getting into the quality assurance, right? How are you uncovering customer insights? Can you tell me that, things like 38% of the customers who called yesterday used the phrase too expensive, like all the stuff that we can do at Expivia, right? Like I think that those key trends are just so important in today's contact center, right? Again, stuff that before was like game changing. Like that's a 2016-17 game changer. Now it should be a core tool in every BPO that you're going after. Now, I struggled with this, right? In this kind of this number 5, this operational differentiation, right? Again, I hate the term why I put it in here, right? Because a lot of this stuff I'm seeing in all the RFPs, and again, I'm not here to change that. So this is kind of stuff I think you should have. So this benchmarks you with everybody, but then adds to it. Again, that whole white glove service and top agents, I think it's fair though. Me being an outsourcer, I want a section where I can kind of talk about how my actual operations differentiate, right? How my policies, how certain operational metrics can change and evolve, and how I'm a little bit better on the actual agent operational side. So that's kind of why I think that's important, because again, you're still going to be using agents and you still need to drill down and understand if that contact center is legit, if they're not, and kind of how are they going to differentiate with you. The other, I think, things that we're starting to move into is customer journey things, right? Do you have a tool? Does the BPO have a tool to kind of measure your customer journey? Can they give you insights into what is working, what is not working. How's your IVR? Do you have any virtual agents? What is that whole process in the contact center? Can they help you with that? Can they streamline it? Can they make it a better process? That's a tool that I think is, again, underrated, and I even give it its own section. And then again, getting into, we went high level on what the BPO can do, but now this is kind of talking about what can the BPO do for the customer who is starting on their AI journey, right? So how do you help the client, or me who's sending you this RFP, right, BPO, how do you help me get on a roadmap when I don't really know what to do, right? When I don't know where to start, but I know that I'm being pressured to use an outsourcer that is AI powered because I want to use all this cool AI stuff. And you want a partner then that can make sure that they can help you with that, right? We're seeing this all the time at Expivia, right? With new customers coming on that say, hey, Tom, I want to go and can you get rid of 60% of my volume with virtual agents? And I'm like, all right, well, let's talk that through. Can I see, what do you have from a KMS? What is your knowledge? What is your data? And they're like, we don't have any of that. So, all of this stuff, I think an outsourcing partner can help you with, should help you with, and is something that is really, really important and should be on every single night. This is one that I added because I don't see it at all. Everyone's just assuming that if you have the tools that we can just use your stuff. Well, that's not always true. And I think it's important in an RFP that you scope that out and make sure that that BPO understands even where you are and that they have the patience, the know-how and the want to help you get on that roadmap of AI. I probably selfishly, because we're doing auto QA, I did put a quality assurance in auto QA section, right? How do they do QA? Is all their QA manual? Can they only do 3 calls per agent per week? Can they scale this with AI? Like, how does that work? I think everyone should have auto QA. I'm not saying auto, our tool, but they should have some tool, whether it's in their CCaaS, whether it is a third party, like an Observe, like a Level, one of those guys, Balto. If you're not going to use us, right, you have to at least have something in place if you're a BPO, right? The whole scoring 2 agents per week kind of thing, 3 agents per week, that's done. That's out. You should never be expecting that. And if you are, then your RFP and what you're asking for is you're not holding BPOs to the standard that they should be held to in 2025. One of the biggest aspects I think of that has not been talked about enough, and a couple people on LinkedIn are doing it, but is workforce management, right? Workforce management has had such an AI boost that you need to really find out what the deal is. Now, if you're a smaller you want to outsource 10, 15 seats, it's probably not that important, but you want to do 100, 200, 300, right? You better know what tools that customer is using if you're not using your own internal WFM tool, right? How do they handle surges? How do they maintain service levels? Do they use some type of workforce intelligence to move agents around without having a human being do that, right? What is their approach to scheduling? Do agents get to pick their own schedule? How do they trade? You need to know all that, and it needs to kind of match with what you want from the KPIs that you're looking for. I think that's really important. Hiring and training is always until AI, and we can always, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm arguing this all the time, right? But hiring and training is still a vastly important thing, right? How are we onboarding agents? How are they training? Is everything virtual? Do they come into the office? What tools are you using? How are we continuing the education of agents? How do we coach? Right? All of those things are just so vitally important. And that doesn't change, right? I'm sure everybody has kind of their philosophy with that, and I would just keep with what you have. But, I think that's really important. One of the things that is evolving is ratios. With AI, I think ratios can go up a little bit if you have an AI powered contact center because the AI is looking at a lot of things. So again, start to think that through a little bit and don't maybe hammer a BPO if they're at an 18-to-1 ratio versus a 15-to-1 ratio, if they're using more AI type tools, especially with real-time supervision, real-time coaching, real-time sentiment analysis, being able to look at things in more of a mission control type environment than kind of sitting and watching and staring at a dashboard. But I would make sure that you want to know that. What is the training ratio, supervisor, educator to agent? What is the go live? What is the kind of the standard once they're up and running? What is the QA? Again, we used to talk about that, right? What's your QA manager ratio? And if they're still talking about that, then again, they're probably fall behind because they're not using AI. But yeah, all of that I think is really important. We still got to understand our KPIs and our metrics. And I would just tell you that this is evolving, right? Yes. Service level, average handle time, ASA. What else am I missing? Just trying to think of off the top of my head. I'm going blank. Oh my gosh. All of those type of kind of, again, old school metrics, they're still vitally important, right? But we need to evolve those metrics just from the KPIs and the workforce management to the quality metrics, looking at sentiment scoring, looking at agent and customer sentiment, looking at your quality scores, looking at first call resolution a little bit more. We can talk about NPS and CSAT, but and how we score that. But I think, again, there needs to be still some type of customer feedback, whether you're using AI for it, whether you're actually using surveys. I just did a big thing on why I think surveys stink. But still, I think that, the old school metrics and KPIs are still really important, and that kind of rolls with, with your SLAs. I would also talk about SLAs as it relates to client support. Right. Again, like at Expivia, we have a 15-minute, if a customer sends an email, right, first of all, if you call, we will answer, right? That customer service person will answer. You'll have everyone's cell phone. But if you send an email, there's a 15-minute, right, SLA that we have to respond to. And if we don't have the answer, we'll be like, hey, I'm checking on that. How does that work in the BPO? I would ask that, make sure that you kind of have that pinned down. Reporting and dashboards. You shouldn't pay extra for them. Right? They should be free for you, right? Monitoring, blind monitoring should be free for you, right? You should be able to just pull up a dashboard. And now again, you can't have 400 dashboards, but if your team needs 5, to be able to see all of the things that are happening in real time, right? That needs to happen. You should be able to double click on agents and do monitoring, right? All of the reporting, while I'm sure it's totally fine to want things to be sent to you. It is, yeah, I did. I sent him an email. Sorry about that. It is also, just vitally important that you have access to all of your data, even if you're getting reports daily. You want to be able to see, again, not just real time, but looking kind of at that integrated report, looking at that historical report. What is the call volume over time? You shouldn't have to ask the BPO or the customer for that. All right, number 15 is getting to be different, right? Cost structure. How are they working things, right? If we're talking about virtual agents, so it should be more of a usage type model, but maybe not. Maybe there's so many different evolving ways, from a usage model to still the hourly model to a per minute basis to a per second basis, right? All of these things are really evolving. I would just be careful on the BS fees, technology fees, setup fees need to happen, but they don't have to be totally burdensome where you're getting ripped off. I still believe that training should be a little bit less than a go live rate. That's kind of what we do at Expivia. But I would, really get deeper into now how they're billing your technology. Is there extra fees for analytics? Shouldn't be, but a lot of people do it. Is there? Maybe that's why we're not as big as we are, because I'm not charging enough for all of this stuff. But anyway, find out about that and what is comfortable for you. I would do a full cost analysis. I mean, I know most of you do that, but that's not going to be as easy as it always is, just because there's a lot of different now pricing models that are out there. We talk about intent analysis. We talk about self-service. This is evolving, right? This is now, talking about not just, setting up a chatbot and setting up an IVR, but, or maybe that's good. Maybe that's fine for you, right? Maybe that's a discussion I have right now is we don't have to go all the way to a full-blown AI virtual agent to do everything, right? You need password resets, you need account balance, you need basic things like that. The way that we've been doing self-service for a long time is going to work just fine, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. So understand what your capability needs are, and I think that will tell you a lot about what you're looking for then from a self-service. There's a lot of questions in here, and I think you're going to see a lot of companies really hammer this section, right, to try to look like they're very AI centric and forward, and we're going to take away all this and do this for you. But just make sure that you're reading between the lines. Make sure that you're not getting charged for things you don't need. And, understand if you have basic things, you can get away with basic tools. If you have really advanced crazy things, you're probably going to need advanced crazy things, right? So I think that's really important with that too. And again, there's kind of this, I guess, miscellaneous kind of sections, when you're talking about, how you work from home, how do you do virtual agents? What are you doing from implementation? How long is this whole thing going to take, right? Really drill them down on that. I normally say we're quicker than you guys because, it's the MSA and the statement of work that normally holds everything up because lawyers got to get involved. But once the lawyers are out, then we're in a good spot. So, and then again, if I would always ask for some case studies on some of the important metrics that you guys are showing. So case studies on, if there's any AI implementation, case studies on somebody who didn't have AI and how you help them, case studies on maybe how you moved virtual agents right away from live agents and the cost savings. Ask for analytics. What type of data have you been able to get of a customer? I think all this stuff is really, really important and can really help you and make this a successful, again, not false hustle. Because again, I see a lot of RFPs that ask for things that have no bearing on the actual impact of the operation. This RFP right here is thorough. It's not overburdensome, and it gets right to the core of that human and that AI, together. So again, I will post this again on LinkedIn. I'll post it in the comment section when I do when I post this episode. I will try to post the link on LinkedIn on like the YouTubes and that, and in the show notes. But again, I think that this can help you. And again, if I just ask if any of you use this, if you have found any value in this today, that you just include Expivia, right? Include my BPO in your RFP process. Right. We like to just at least show you kind of the things that we can do. We're not the biggest contact center. I think we're one of the best. We're one of the most technologically forward companies. We're the only BPO that's on the NICE CX1 Executive Customer Council with these giant names, and I still don't know maybe why I'm on it. But I would love to talk to you about this. And again, if you're looking to go, we're a US-based contact center. So if you're looking to go offshore, nearshore, if you need assistance or help with that, please reach out to me too. I'd be more than happy to kind of even give you some names or at least point you in the right direction and anything I can do to help. So again, hopefully you found some value in this bad boy, and I'll talk to everybody next week.